strive. First of all, continuing the apostles' teaching and fellowship, the breaking of bread and the bread, being a part of the congregation. I'm going to say a little bit more about that in just a few minutes. And living out the life that's in the congregation, worshiping and so forth. Will you persevere in resisting evil, and whenever you fall into sin, repent and return to the Lord? That's the word that has to do with the business about sin. Being conscious when you have offended or hurt someone else, asking for their forgiveness. Being unafraid to ask for some specificity about what I did, when I did it, and saying, I'm sorry. And then when somebody else comes to you, please do remember this. It goes both ways. Somebody comes to you and say, John, I'm sorry, I did so-and-so. Don't brush it off by saying, oh, don't worry, don't brush it off. Take a minute to accept it when somebody offers that and say, thank you for thinking of asking forgiveness. Please be assured of your forgiveness. Let us continue to walk together and share with each other. Then, proclaim by word and example, and it's important to note the proclamation is done not just by example. A lot of people will say, I don't talk about my faith much, I just try to live it. Okay, that's very good. And we see some examples of that in people. But again, the baptismal covenant is very specific. It says, talk about your faith. How long has it been since you told somebody where you were a member of the church, what it means to be a member of the church, what it means to be a Christian? To be able to say, after something has happened, why did you do that? What do you believe about that? Just to be able to say, because I'm a Christian, because I'm a Christian. And what does it mean to be a Christian? To know something about your faith and to be able to talk about your faith, not just to live your faith. Then, will you proclaim by word and example we said that. Well, will you seek and serve Christ in all people, all persons, loving your neighbor as yourself? Seek and serve all people. No human being is without and beyond our caring, our concern. Whether there are people who have wronged us or people who have done us good, whether there are people who far, far away that we need to think about, be concerned about. We've tried hard to hold up the largest diocese in the Episcopal Church in our concern lately. It's called Haiti. Hope you know something about it. Hope you've responded to needs for Haiti. But there are a whole lot of people who have needs right here at home. Some are homeless. Some have gone through terrible times together. And don't just brush it off, friends. Take their burdens seriously and ask, is there anything we can do? Is there anything I can do to reach out, to care? Then, the radical one, the last one. Will you strive for justice and peace among all people and respect the dignity of every human being? What does that have to do with the way you live? What does that have to do with issues that are in the world and about us that we can do something about? It has to do with racism, which is still there, believe me. I run into it constantly, and I have to guard against it in my own life as I look to see what color a person's skin is, or where somebody came from, or what our national origin is. I have to stop and think about it in terms of dignity. I have to stop and think about it in terms of human rights. Person's right to have the same freedoms that I have. And sometimes that can be very hard, and sometimes we don't want to get into that because it seems to cause trouble. Human dignity. About race and about sex, women's rights, men's rights, and about sexuality. Persons whose sexuality is different than ours, be they gay, be they lesbian, be they whoever they are. Individual rights and freedoms of human dignity. Let me just hold up, in conclusion, that first promise again. Because we're sitting here in this wonderful church. We're sitting here with the clergy and the lay people. We're sitting here with persons who are coming forward on your behalf to be more a part as they renew their commitment, as all of us renew our commitment. Again, the question is to continue in the apostles' teaching and fellowship and the breaking of bread and in the prayers. There's nothing sadder than somebody who hasn't continued. Nothing sadder than somebody saying, oh, I used to go to St. John's Church, but, you know, they got a new strange minister, and I didn't like it. Or, I wanted to be on the vestry, they never would elect me. Or a lot of silly business sometimes about why we don't continue. And the continuing doesn't say, I'll continue as long as the weather's good and I get to church okay. I'll continue as long as I like who's going to preach that day. I like as long as I like the music, as long as I... Those outward signs, friend, have no business whatsoever of our concern. There's only one way to continue, and that is to be a part of a Christian body in which you care about other people and you care about doing things that make a difference in their lives, and they for you. It means being a part of a fellowship, a body that needs all of its members together. How many of you in this last week have said something to somebody who you missed seeing in church, or perhaps done something about it? How many of you have said, come to St. Peter's sometime and see what we do? I think you would enjoy being a part of this body, which is called the church. You can't just be a Christian, you see, in name only. It doesn't work that way. The way you be a Christian is to be a part of a local group of people, usually called a congregation, a parish, a church, a Christian group who worships regularly, and that's the next part. Regular worship. The apostles' teaching and fellowship, and the breaking of bread and in the prayers. That's pretty specific. Breaking bread, you know what that is. Going to communion. And seeing it as a breaking of bread, as a part of the fellowship, of the sharing with one another, the most profound thing that we do as Christian people is to come to the Eucharist, receiving the body and blood as Christian people have done forever, and sharing that with others, needing to know the strength that comes from that, and going forth from that to serve in the Word. Will you continue in the apostles' teaching and fellowship? I'm glad the word teaching is there, because that to me says you never learn enough about the faith. There's always more to learn, and you need to continue to learn what it is to be a Christian, what Christians believe in. Bible study? You bet. Theology? You bet. Prayer groups? You bet. All those things. Ways of being a part of a fellowship and being a part of the learning. And in the prayers, not just any old prayers, the good old Book of Common Prayer, knowing that book, how it's evolved over my own lifetime. I like to think it gets better all the time. I miss some of the old things, oh sure. And it always amuses me sometimes when you go to a church and they're still using something out of the old prayer book because it makes them feel comfortable. And I have to say, okay, I wish you could stick with the new. But if there's something in the old that is important to you, have that too. But using the prayers, God bless you, St. Peter's Church in Peekskill. God bless you, friends, whom I will receive and confirm in a few moments. You are part of a great and wonderful congregation and a great and wonderful church in this magnificent Diocese of New York, this Episcopal Church in the United States, this Anglican communion, despite all its ups and downs and bounces, and we read about that. We carry on. We continue in the apostles' teaching and fellowship, and the breaking of bread, and in the prayers. Amen.
Amen. Amen.